Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and welcome to another episode of Thrive, Turning Uncertainty to Competitive Advantage, the show where we dive into the steps, discuss all the secrets, everything that you need to know to turn all of this uncertainty into your competitive advantage. And we have back for a command performance, none other than business growth expert, strategist, guru, everything you want to call him, Ford Saeks. Welcome to the show, Ford.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, yesterday I was on your website, kind of looking at all the things that you offer. You do quite a bit in this space for your clients. Today, I really wanted to focus on a couple of things. I want to focus on revenue models, the importance of diversifying. But I wanted to start with the fact of, I was discussing the other day with another guest, the fact that there is so much white noise in the marketplace. How do you get your message out in today's marketplace? Where do you start and how do you stand out to differentiate yourself?
Well, that's a great way to start the show. What I would tell you first is there's so much uncertainty. So not only is there a lot of white noise that you have to stand out above the competition and be seen and heard, but there's also changing buyer behaviors. There's so much distrust in the industry, whatever industry you're in, there's distrust. And so it's whether it's political or the media or just the way buyers buy. So there's two things here. Really, it's how do you create trust and confidence so that people will actually want to do business with you, but then how do they find you, right? So how do they find you? How do you attract them? And how do you, convert and retain them? So I just want to lay that foundation that it really is about being found. Well, the first question was, okay, how do you get found? Well, you need to be visible. You need to fish where the fish are. So you need to take a look at your revenue model and look at who your ideal customers are and decide who are you really trying to reach and revisit it. I mean, I think it's a perfect time to reignite, reboot, reframe, and rethink what you're currently doing as a business. So regardless if you're watching this and you're an executive or we're a franchise business or an entrepreneur, or maybe you're just working for a company and you're looking at how you can do it better, you have to start with stepping back, looking at what problems you solve that people will pay to make go away. What's your value proposition? And have you updated your value propositions to make sure they're timely, topical, and relevant?
How much do you need to update your value proposition? I mean, I love the fact that you brought up uncertainty because that's what we're talking about, really in this show in general. But the fact that, what we're doing right now in April of 2021 could be completely different. I mean, the challenges that we're facing by July of this year, by September of this year, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with will our taxes go up? What's going to happen to gas prices? I mean, there's so much moving in the marketplace. Much do you need to revisit your value proposition?
I think it's really important. I mean, if profit hides a lot of mistakes. So maybe you're doing really well right now. Maybe you're one of those essential businesses that's booming because you had to stay open and you weren't restricted at all. And you're looking at capacity. How do you attract and retain top talent? So there could be a staffing issue on one side, or it could be maybe you weren't one of those essential businesses, and now you're looking at how you need to revisit. So you really have to ask yourself, if you have enough business, well, then, don't break it if it's working. But I would tell you that, you want to think about what's next. You don't want to look backwards. You don't want to look back of, when it gets back to normal or when it returns, or you need to let that go and you need to look forward and ask yourself, what's going to be relevant 3-6 months from now or a year? Yes, it's nice to look out 3-year plan. I just don't think that's pie in the sky for me. I'd like to have you at least look out 1 or 2 years. I mean, obviously, I want you to have a long-term plan, but you need to address the issues that are going on right now. So take a look at your business. Look at is your website, your social media, your business listings, your directory listings, is it your infographics, the things you're communicating, your content, is what you're actually sending out to the marketplace relevant, or are you just regurgitating the same things that you've been using for years and wondering why it doesn't work?
You brought up trust, and we just had a listener ask a question is, how do I know whether I'm building trust in the marketplace or not? And I love the fact that we're talking about trust this week because our friend David Horsager the guru of trust,
Yes.
just released his new book, which I'll put up there for if you want to know anything about trust, you need to go to David Horsager, because he is the expert on the subject. And that's a little information about how to find out about his new book and his information. But where do we start? That our listener wants to know, basically, where do we start with trust, and how do I even know if I'm creating it in the marketplace? Well,
you could do a survey. You could use what's called the Net Promoter Score, where you ask your clients on a scale of 1 to 10. And you've seen this if you've purchased anything from any major company. This is not something I invented. It's been used for many, many years, but it's basically one question. On a scale from 0 to 10, with 10 being best, what's the likelihood that you would recommend me to a friend or colleague? And if you score between 0 and 6, they're probably not really going to recommend you. 7s and 8s. 6 and 7s and 8s, they're probably going to refer you if someone asks them, but what you really want is those advocates, those 9s and 10s. So you might do a blind survey. That's one thing. The other thing is you just have to listen to your customers. You need to go back and look at, are your sales increasing or decreasing? What are your leads saying? You have to listen to the marketplace. And remember that they vote with their money. So if what you have isn't selling, it's because you're not connecting effectively to what their needs are. Now, of course, we're assuming that they need what you have, but really it's important to really take a step back right now. And more than anything, as we start the second quarter of 2021, to really look at, okay, first quarter's gone, went by like a blind flash of the obvious. Now you're looking forward. What do you really need to prepare for? And, in business, there's 3 different main funnels or silos, right? You've got your delivering your product or service. You've got your marketing and sales, and then you have your leadership and management. So, to grow a business, there's really only 4 ways, Meridith. And, you and I have presented a lot of different programs just last week with was it Care Patrol, or what was the one last week?
It was Care Patrol, and they're actually in house. Look how
good. They're here.
Good,
great.
Yeah. Ford and I actually got to share the virtual stage, and I love that Aaron's tuning in right now. So go ahead, Ford.
That's fantastic. No, but that's exactly right. So you need to look at those 3 areas of your business and ask yourself, how are you growing? So there's really only 4 ways to grow. I'll just throw it out real quick. You're either going to get more high value clients or customers. We don't want more customers. We want more high value customers, right? And whether it's customers or clients, whatever your business model is, I get it. Number 2, you're going to increase the average transaction. How do you add more value so they want to spend more money with you? What's the opportunity? So I just got done doing a keynote for a large power company, and I'm putting together a whole 6-month, marketing and sales program for them to extenuate it, because training isn't something that you did, it's something that you do, right? So 1, get more clients. 2, increase the average transaction. 3, increase repeat and referral sales. I was lucky enough that on the first show, you felt it was valuable enough that you brought me back, right? So it's a repeat. It's like a repeat and a referral. And then the 4th way, is where you actually improve your operational efficiency. So let's just take a breath, get more high value customers, increase the average transaction, increase repeat or referral sales, depends on what you're selling. And then, of course, increase your operational efficiency. And that's why it's so great that you're tuning in today to Meridith and this show, is because you're interested in getting ideas, strategies, and tactics that you can apply immediately to make a difference in your business. It's great to talk about theory, but what specifically can you do today? Well, specifically, you need to take a look at your monthly sales, your key performance indicators. You need to ask yourself what your conversion rate is. And what Meridith specializes in, and I do too, but what you do, Meridith helps you shorten that sales cycle, right? Helps you do all those things from a sales standpoint. So I'm just great to be here talking about something that's really near and dear to my heart.
Well, I love the fact that we're talking about this, and you brought it up right at the beginning of the show, is the fact that first quarter's gone. It went by like a flash, but I'm so big on the fact that every single quarter you ought to reflect. And I love the 4 buckets that you've given us, is you ought to reflect in those 4 areas, see what worked, see what didn't work, and make some adjustments as we go into quarter 2. What are you kind of thinking about? What are you predicting? Do you think we're headed into a boom? Do you think there's going to be some inflation? Like, what do you think we're headed to in the next 6 to 8 months as it goes as far as growing a business?
confident that we're going to emerge stronger, that we're going to, I want to hold that mindset. I don't want to participate in a recession. I don't want to be doom and gloom. And I also believe that at the end of the day, money needs to move. People are still going to spend their money. People are still going to do things. So you can either fall into the fear bucket, which is, resistant to do anything and sit still. But, I always tell people, if you're in the middle of the road, you're going to get run over. Pick a lane. You need to move forward. So I suggest you focus forward and you look at the opportunities and you take a fresh look at your business. And there's plenty of opportunity out there. I think the biggest challenge, is because of the media, and I'm talking all media now. We're not being political. It's just anything. And media, meaning social media and regular media noise in general. There's so much noise out there that sensationalizes the doom and gloom. And what I want you to do as a business owner or someone who works in a business is to really step back and realize that people probably need your services or they want them, and you have to be visible. And if you don't have enough business, it's probably because people don't know about you and you're a secret. So you need to really ask yourself, am I being visible? We've talked to people in our profession, right, Meridith, that when COVID hit, they were strictly keynoters and they lost their business. Well, you and I were doing virtual presentations, pre-COVID. So when COVID happened, we were able to transition. I don't like pivot, that's been used, but we were able to transition to offering brands like Care Patrol, who just had their annual virtual summit, a way to engage their franchisees so that they could refresh their mindset, right? Because they've been conditioned. Some of them had to close down. Like in Care Patrol, they couldn't get the same referral partners because the hospitals and the clinics were closed. And so they had to figure out new creative ways, innovative ways within the brand alignment, so it was still under compliant, that they could reach out and take action. So at the end of the day, the future to me is it's always going to be uncertain, and you have to drive your own ship. And you have to be willing to take control of your own business. And I look at control as a positive word, not a negative word. In business, you need to be responsible and fiscally responsible and realize that it's up to you. I just sent in my taxes for 2021. I sent it to my CPA, and I'm looking at the year. And, we had a down year, but we were still up compared to where, we could have been if we weren't active and proactive. And, we redid our packages, we redid our fees, we did bundles. One of the things I did with clients is I did a series where instead of just doing a keynote or an opening keynote, then we did a series. So it's really this is what we call taking 10 minutes to cook 2-minute rice, everybody. So I'm giving you more information than you need. The bottom line is, when you're looking forward for this quarter, you just need to ask yourself, what's the highest and best use of my time? You need to know what to say no to, and you need to stay focused.
I think focus is key. I think the difference between people who succeed and people who don't is people who succeed don't get distracted, or they can pull themselves back to focus. And I think that's a skill. I think it's a skill people can learn. But you've brought up a really good point about you and I when this hit. And I was willing to do anything. Talk about walking away from a keynote. If you do, people called me and said, "Can you figure out how to do this?" And I was fine with that. Talk about diversifying revenue streams. And one, how important that is. But two, how do you get started? If you have really had one general stream of revenue, where do you even begin to think about diversifying?
Well, I'd recommend that you start with what's called, what we do for our clients is called a sales dictionary. And the sales dictionary is basically a Word document. And in the Word document, it's where you capture all the problems that your market has. And it's also where you do your research and you do like a mini mind map. So you look at all the problems, you look at how does your market phrase it in the exact words that they use. You look at the competitors, you look at the associations, you look at the media publications, you look at the influencers, and you get a good snapshot of that. And then the sales dictionary goes further, where you start with the problems, and then you have to make a list of all your headlines. All your headlines. What are the headlines you use on all your marketing? And there's 7 different types of headlines. I'm not going to try to do a training right now, but there's the question headline, the command headline, the how-to headline, the reasons why, the testimonial. That's 5. I'll just do those off the top of my head. but you need to capture all your headlines. Then you need to capture your revenue model. What are the basic things that we sell? So for authors and speakers, we're Hall of Fame keynote speakers. For what you have to sell, well, you have to look at packaging. So for me, I'm just going to detour for a second in the sales dictionary. In my revenue stream, I have an agency called Prime Concepts, primeconcepts.com. So we actually do done-for-you services. Well, when I speak, I get leads. People see me speak. They know I'm an expert, and they're like, well, hey, you understand it. Can you just do it? Well, that's done for you. Then I have speaking and training, coaching and consulting, and product sales and professional services. So I've got 4 different revenue streams. But at the end of the day, it's really all around business growth. How do you accelerate your growth? And so I think as a business, you have to look at yourself and realize that you're not a plumber. You're not a senior care advisor. You really have to step back and ask yourself, what's the service that what's the problem I'm really helping solve? Capture it in a Word document with your headlines, your main value propositions, your products, and your calls to action. If you put that all in a sales dictionary, then that's where because your question was, where do you start? Then whenever you're doing an ad, a social media post, a billboard, a promotion, an email campaign, a funnel, or whatever you're doing, you can go back to that sales dictionary to make sure it's in alignment with what you're trying to say. You're not having to reinvent the wheel all over again. So it's an organic document that just keeps growing. And I highly recommend it. It's a great exercise for everybody to do. It's not about perfection. It's about capturing it. And it's really important to capture it in the way that your market talks about it, right, Meredith? Yeah. So, for example, you and I both work in the franchise industry, and we know there's 2 problems in franchising, right? The franchisor wants the franchisees to follow the darn systems. Okay, they want a little 7-second delay there, but they want them to follow their systems, right? Mm-hmm. And the franchisee wants the corporate company to do more for them. Now, as people who work in that industry, since you and I both know that, when we're talking to a franchise corporate meeting planner that's interested in doing a conference, we can explain that we understand their business. So, for example, I work with fast casual and quick service restaurants. I work with banking, and in banking, they want to do 3 things. Banks want to increase core deposits because they have to have money to loan. They want to increase loan demand, and they want to increase non-interest revenue. How can they make money? So again, it's about understanding the language. So now I just threw out 2 ideas in 2 industries that I work in. But for those of you listening and watching this, you need to ask yourself, what is it that the prospect says? How do they say it so that you can communicate? And Meredith, what I would say, and you're the sales expert and I love you, I would tell you that, the more closely that you can communicate, that you understand what the prospect's problem is, they already believe you can have the answer. So I'm going to say this again. I'm going to pass the mic back to you. The more closely that you can communicate to your target market that you understand their challenges and problems, we're not even saying how to solve them yet. We're just saying that you understand it. That automatically gets the attention, and now they automatically assume that you have the answer. So again, I hope everybody really got that idea, because man, so many times they're just pushing here. This is what we do. This is what we do. This is what we do. And I would tell them, take 80% of the way and put 80% on communicating that you understand the problem, and you'll get a lot more sales.
Yeah, the 2 big things that I've heard you say there that I really don't want our listeners to lose is, number 1 is use the language. Don't change the language. The moment that Ford tells me that the problem looks like this, I need to use the exact language that you use, because that tells you that I understand.
Exactly.
The other is that people do not do business with people they understand. They do business with people who understand them. I mean, and that is such a lost concept in sales, is the moment. And I think that in the world we're living in now, it's more important than ever, because as a consumer, I sit there and I can buy what I need anywhere. And quite frankly, I can buy it from anybody. So I'm looking for somebody that I feel really gets me. And in a world that's overcrowded with white noise, I have a deep need to be heard. So the moment you use the language with me, I'm like, Ford gets me. And now you look different than anybody else out there who's offering the same product or service.
Yeah, and absolutely. And you don't want to be a commodity. Right. I mean, and unfortunately, there's a lot of businesses that you and I have both worked with, inside and outside franchising everybody. It's, every industry. And they have the belief that they're a commodity, whether it's financial services or manufacturing or retail stores or whatever it is. And you don't want to be a commodity. Yes, you teach sales training, so do I, but we're not commodities. We've got unique styles and methodologies and systems that we use that give us a competitive edge. But if all we're doing is we're saying, oh, we do sales keynotes or we do marketing keynotes, well, that might get us into the pool to be considered. But then then the meeting planners really want to know, well, what makes you different, and why should I invest our hard-earned money and put you in front of them? I mean, we all know there's a lot of motivational speakers out there, and unfortunately, as a speaker, some of my friends are like, "Oh, you're a motivational speaker." No, I'm not. And the people who aren't in the industry, they think every speaker is a motivational speaker. It's like, no, and there's nothing wrong with motivational speakers. Some of my best friends and clients, like Les Brown, I mean, they're motivational speakers, but I believe that you have to be inspiring. But at the end of the day, I'm a business owner. I've got to make payroll. I've got an office right out here. I can switch the camera and see if I can hit that's my office there. And right outside that door is my team. And so, going to go back to the other one. So, I have to make payroll every 2 weeks. I have a real business, and I want to make sure that we don't communicate as a commodity, or we're not going to have business.
Right. You're not going to, people aren't going to choose you over the competition. Listen, it's hard to believe, but we have come to the end of the show here. 2 last questions I want to ask you as we head in to this second quarter. What's the biggest piece of advice you have for a business owner out there who isn't sure where the marketplace is going to be? And then how do our listeners find you, get a hold of you, and find out more about how Prime Concepts and Ford Saeks can help them?
Okay. So the first question is, what can they do now? And I would say write down 4 words: test, track, modify, and repeat. Test what's working, track the results, modify something to see if you can improve it, and then repeat what works, and just continue that process. So everything you do should be testing. You're tracking to see what works, what headlines work, what conversion works. Test, track, modify, and then repeat what works, and continually use that as a benchmark. So you have a baseline and then you improve it. Now, as far as how people can get a hold of me, obviously you can just go to Google my name, Ford Saeks, but you can go to ProfitRichResults.com. There you go. My name's on screen. So ProfitRichResults.com or PrimeConcepts.com is my agency. So I have an agency business, which we do the done-for-you marketing, PrimeConcepts.com. And then I've got the speaker website, which she just put up, which is ProfitRichResults.com. But I've really enjoyed having me back. And again, anytime you have a need, let me know. Just schedule it. Thank you for sending me the StreamYard link. I didn't have it in the same announcement, so I'm glad I didn't make us too late.
No, we are in good shape. Ford, I always love having you on, and I will take you up on that. I will definitely have you back. Thanks for joining us again. I mean, your advice is so good and so rich. I want to thank everybody again for joining us for another episode of Thriving in Uncertainty. Yay! Join us next week where we'll have another guest with another set of strategies and secrets that you need to turn all of this uncertainty into your competitive advantage. Thank you.